Today's guest on the journey is a business strategist, seven-figure online business coach, and a certified servant leadership executive coach. At the age of 54 years old, she was a solo parent in deep debt and got herself online and to $1 million in 17 months without ads, and has since scaled to multi-millions in 4 years. Her company has helped over 400 businesses to thrive online. I say no more. It's her journey, but we welcome Jeanne Omlor to the journey.
Hey there.
Hey, everyone, as we said pre-recording, has a journey. Everyone has a beginning. Obviously, I spoke about it briefly in your bio, but what was the earliest memory that got your journey started?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's many journeys in a life and it's like which journey are you talking about and where does that one start and where does that one end? And of course, there's timeline oneness, but I feel like it's a lot of cuts in a film. They cut films and they've got that and then they edit it. So I feel like how did the journey start? Wow. Um, the journey started a long time ago because I just feel like pieces of us move into one editing part to another, right? So this journey of coaching started 13 years ago. I was offline for 8 years doing the whole networking thing. And that was kind of a way to stay fairly broke because there's a certain you can't make the kind of money that you make online with offline. So I got online 5 years ago. I was deep in debt. I'm a solo parent of two children. And I figured out, like, because I had to, like, how to dig myself out of that just being online. And of course, I didn't have a budget for all the ad spend then. So I thought I've got to do this without ads. And I did. I figured out what's called organic marketing. And as you said, I got to my first million in about 17 months. And that was almost actually a bit more than almost 5 years now. So that's when the journey started, was 13 years ago.
And just, because finding things to do organically now without making it sound like you're using stuff to generate. I know from experience of doing videos on YouTube and even on blogs, you've got to write it the right sort of sentiment to get those organic hits.
Right. Well, content's surely a big part of it. That's called attraction marketing. That's inbound. That's called the inbound marketing because you're just posting something and people go, "Oh my gosh, I love that." And that's great when you can dial that in. But a business person doesn't just rely on people coming to you. They also say, "Okay, well, we have inbound. We also have to do some outbound, actual like selling." So definitely both of those are really important. And I focus on both of those with our clients.
Yeah, and obviously networking. I've been to networking meetings before when I was in England, and I know it's about making the right impression as well. So when you do it online, it's the same principle. You've got to make the right
Mm.
impression.
Right. But it's not, I feel like that's a thing of the past of, well, I'm just gonna, make a right impression. Because it's almost like saying, I'm not gonna be myself because myself isn't good enough. So I've got to try to be like everybody else. And I remember when I used to think that way, like 13 years ago. And I realize now just like how wrong that is. And I didn't fake, but you sort of like have a certain demeanor of like business or whatever. And like, I don't do that. It's just, I really feel now in my journey of 13 years, what's really important is that we be ourselves because people hire us for us. They don't hire us for who we're pretending to be because then that's not real. It's fake. And I think this whole thing about fakeness has come to the forefront with fake news and fake this and fake that and, fake body parts. So I just feel like it's more and more important now because of AI and the social media and just all the transparency. It's really hard. I think it's, social media, people use it to fake, like, like Lamborghinis and all that. But really, what people want is they want to work with somebody who's human, who's done what they want to do, and they want to follow in your footsteps. And they want to see a bit of the mess that went on too. They want to make, there was one newscaster here that said, make your mess your message. And I love that because I didn't even know about that till recently. I thought certainly did make my mess my message because it really is about, hey, we're human. We all go through really hard stuff. Most of us have been through hard stuff. Most of us, some harder than others, agreed. But whenever you meet a person, they've been through hard stuff, unless they are one of the very few people in this world that's never been through anything hard, because they're a complete anomaly. We've all been
mm,
through really hard stuff. So it's about, just being honest about that. Look, this was really hard, but look what I did. Really hard, but I got online and I saved the day. And look, now it's way easier. And I have something called contrast bias. You know what contrast bias is?
I've heard of it.
Yes. So contrast bias is you can never truly be wealthy if you don't know what it is to be poor because there's no contrast of what the difference is. So when I started learning about contrast bias, I thought that's such a gift that I've been through so much stuff because now I know how great it is to have money and you enjoy it more. But if
Yeah,
you don't know what money is because you're just from a wealthy family and you don't know the difference, you don't really know how good that money is and how you really don't know. So it's actually a blessing to have been through pain to know what not pain is, to, hashtag unpain, hashtag unpoverty. So it's, it's that's a gift. So when people complain about what they've been through, I'm like, oh my goodness, now you know how bad it can be. And now you can appreciate how good it can be. It's all a gift.
yeah. And obviously, you're talking about fake news. Certain sites nowadays do know when it's a fake news item and it'll flag it up straight away. So you can't get
Mm.
away with fake news nowadays.
Oh, really? I beg to differ.
No, I'm not saying it gets away completely because obviously,
Yeah. There was a lot of
but
fake news. There's a lot of
mm,
fake news that is like official news as well.
yeah.
But anyway, that's beside the point.
And also AI, I noticed nowadays is a very common thing, and that takes away from, like you said, a human being human. Like
Well,
when, well, like I'm using this example. If I was to
mm,
be in school now and they asked us to produce a paper for, Romeo and Juliet, what's your opinion? You can easily go on a chat
right,
AI and get it. And I
right.
did question this recently, and I was like, how do you know if it's chat AI actually trying to, in that text? And they said, we don't know. And I said, one, you do know,
Right.
because the fact is, you know, how can I put this in the right context? How they worded it. They contextually said,
Mm,
you know, you know how your student talks.
mm, mm, right.
Because your student talks in a certain way.
Mm,
Your student talks in such a way that is, you know, spells wrong, for example, misses
mm,
punctuation. So,
mm. Right. Well, AI is another whole discussion. It's so
yes.
vast. Yeah.
So moving into the present, you've done your, learning and you've started going online. How did you feel it was when you started experiencing the successes of your work?
Oh, it's amazing. Like when you've been working towards something and it's like, wow, it's actually really working. It's an amazing feeling. It really is. And it's not just about the money. It is like, this is working. Wow. Finally, I found something that really works. And it's just exciting when you figure out something that works and it works not just for you, but for, because we've had over 450 clients. This stuff works. Coaches and consultants that just don't want to do ads, and how can they still have a business that supports their family, that they're doing what they love, helping other people. It's a gift. So everything I do, I just feel is a gift. It's an amazing feeling when things just work. It is an amazing, human beings want stuff to work, right? We want to be successful. And it's even sweeter when you've been through a lot that hasn't worked, because it's like, oh, finally all of that paid off, finally. So there's that payoff of all the hard work, which is a real human kind of need, that we do hard stuff and then it works. It's way better than trying something once and then it works. It's a way better feeling when you've worked towards something that was hard and then it works, because it's just the whole delayed gratification thing.
Yeah, and it is rewarding, like going to my point of view, how I've done podcasts, I've told you before we started recording,
Mm,
podcasts can hit the right notes, but it's also
mm,
got to hit the right audience. So
mhm,
when I do for Journey, everyone's journey is different, but
mm,
it might not hit with all my audience. It might hit a small percentage, but
mm,
over time that will reward hopefully. But it's again the market to put yourself out there to get people to recognize you, to say, okay, I sponsor you, because that's ultimately what it is with podcasts. You've got to have sponsors to help you get the income. You can have the premium where you can get people to pay X amount a month, but
mm,
it's getting yourself out there in the marketplace for those advertisers if you want advertisers.
mm. Correct. That's true.
So, I find it, I'm not saying that I find it totally difficult, but it's just that level where you got to think, what can I do to make it the right spot?
Right. Well,
Think,
being on, I have a podcast, and I think my podcast is called Business Wealth Impact. Um, it's it is great because I really just wanted to have great people and have wonderful high level conversations with the top minds in the world. But podcasts also do bring, if you're like a coach or have a business, it can bring attention to that without getting a sponsor. So it's definitely a good passive sort of organic lead generation
mm,
uh,
and I've always
strategy,
followed,
I guess. Yeah.
I've always followed podcasts, and it just always amazed me how people can be, and in fact, when I first started listening to them, it always did a top 10 of podcasts,
Mm,
on the site where I got my podcast from. And
mm,
guaranteed there's always one or two that was familiar, and then you go down the further the list and it's like not well known, but they were still a
mm,
podcast and they still kept at it because
mm,
they wanted to be there.
mm. Right.
Now, I don't have any major statistics of, if I was to look at the chart of where my category of podcast is, but
Mm,
it's getting there. It's getting the message out there, even if it's a slow, and I don't like it slow. I want it to be fast. I want it to be, but I don't expect it because it's about wearing that label saying, look, I'm successful, but it doesn't happen overnight. You know that
mm.
yourself.
Right. That's correct. Yeah, things do not happen overnight. You've got to put the work in.
So with the business set how you are now, obviously you're more stable, in finances, and I'm not going to go into your finances, but your business, but
Mm.
you find yourself doing things like podcasts, you find yourself doing things that are good. Do you find there's any negative to it?
Any negative to having a business?
Well, just doing what you do as a person.
Uh,
Have you had any negative come to you and say, for example, and this is me trying to put it in a nice way, have you had any people doubt your ability?
well, people, I mean, human beings are going to doubt other human beings' abilities nonstop.
Hmm.
You could show that, we have, uh, we'll put the reviews page in the, I think you have that, hundreds and hundreds of client results. But human beings are certain personalities, of course, are going to doubt. They will always doubt. That doesn't bother me that somebody doubts me. That makes no difference at all. They either want to work with us or not. So it's all good. But is there any negative? Well, business isn't easy all the time. It's not like everything is fun. Not every single thing is fun. I try to make my business as much fun for me as possible by getting as much help for the things that I don't want to do. Then that's fun. So I make it a point that if I don't want to do something or I don't enjoy it, I hire somebody. That's
Yeah,
my whole strategy. So um, I just feel anything has negative and positive. That's life.
yeah. So going into the future now, how do you see things going for yourself?
I think see things going for myself amazingly. I'm going to keep growing this. I'm going to keep helping more people. I'm going to find another. I want to work on a platform that helps even more people and not just coaches and consultants. So yeah, I have big visions for this.
And going forward, that vision is good to have because it's like it's where you set yourself targets. Where do you see yourself in a year's time? Where do you see yourself in 2 years' time? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? 10
Mm,
years' time? And I've
mm,
always had that question after me in several workplaces. It's like, where do you see yourself next year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
mm,
And yeah, ultimately, for my day job, I might not want, I'm not saying this against my job, what I do now, but I might not want to be doing what my day job is.
right.
So I want to broaden my scope, but I got to find something for the interim to keep myself on that level platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I jump in straight away, I might be a fish out of water trying to breathe.
Mm,
So me doing what I'm doing now for myself is taking my time.
mm, right.
So obviously you work with business types, and obviously, hopefully, this will hit the right notes with certain people. But what would you say to them to help them develop their true potential?
Okay, so I work with coaches and consultants now. I used to work with all business people, and I have a very high level offer for top CEOs, but that's not, usually what I talk about. Um, I just feel generally everybody is full of fear. That's not a criticism. Human beings are full of fear, and it's hard being human. It's hard being human when you think about it. There's sickness, there's death, there's problems at work, there's relationship problems, there's health problems, there's kid problems, there's family problems, there's natural disasters, there's sleep problems, there's all sorts of problems if you start really looking at it. We have to take care of ourselves, self-care, eating, cooking, all of that work. So being human really isn't, and also our spiritual life, not to mention doing the right thing. If you're practicing a religion, practicing that religion, right? So it's, it's not, being human is not for the weak, really, when you think about it deeply. I thought, being human is hard, right?
Mm.
So we really want to make it that our life is not just about hardship. And one of the things that helps that is having a gratitude practice, because when you start to see the glass half empty, it gets emptier. So gratitude practice really, really, even three things you're grateful for every day. Like, I'm grateful that the sun is shining. I'm grateful I had food in the fridge. I'm grateful that, I'm not sick. I'm in good health. So that's the first thing, is really sort of practice gratitude, no matter what's happening. That's the first thing. Beyond that, of course, we human beings want stuff. They want to be more successful, have more money, have better relationship, love, all that, normal. So there's two types of people in life that I can see. Okay, there's lots of different types, but in this category too, there's the people that say they want stuff. Oh, I want to have more money. I want to have a better job. I want to start a business. I want to do this. I want to get a good girlfriend. I want to get married, kids, whatever. They want that. But in business, what I've seen is that most of the people I talk with say, well, I want to make more money and I want to get to, like 50K months, and I want to do that and have more time and go on vacations. Usually people want to travel more. Like almost every single person I meet says they want to travel more. Okay. And then there's people that say what they want, but will not do it. They won't do it. They are never going to do what it takes because they just like saying it. But then they're too scared to actually do what it takes to get what they say they want. That's sad to me because, well, okay, now the second part are people that say what they want and they will do it. They will do whatever it takes, just so it's not bad, illegal, immoral, or unethical. They won't do that, but they'll do whatever it takes to get that. Those are the two people. Now, if you're the type, and you can move from one type to another, you're not doomed to be the type that just spouts all the time what you want, but is never going to do a thing because they're too afraid to invest money or too afraid to this or too afraid to that. So the people that are always stating what they want, but aren't going to take the actions to actually get what they say they want, they would be better off giving it up. Because then what you have is an in between bad situation. You have, oh, I really want this. Okay. But they're never going to do it. So they're kind of in limbo of just wanting stuff. Instead of saying, okay, I say I want this. Am I prepared to do whatever it takes to actually get that? Let me think. No, I'm not. I just want to like get through the day and stay in my familiar zone. I'm never going to do that. They're better off letting it go and being happy with where they are because then they have no anxiety. But that in between space of talking about what they want and all of that, but not really being prepared, is like living in hell.
Yeah. And it's that constant fear of living in that where your mind will go over and over. thinking, and you don't know how to address it properly because your mind is so worked up per se.
No, what it is you say you want something, but you are never going to do it. So it's like torture. It's like dangling the candy in front of the person that's never going to be able to get it. So you're better off being real with yourself and saying, okay, I say I want to have a business and get it to, 30K months. Am I willing to do what it takes? Am I willing to hire a coach? Am I willing to actually do that? Nope, I'm not willing. Better to just let that go then and be in the moment and be happy with what you have because you are not willing to do anything to get more than what you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's like, I never envisioned, myself to go beyond when I was in England, I never went beyond the realms of living in Cornwall.
Right.
And then I started believing in myself, and I thought I can do this, I can do this.
Mm,
And when the opportunity came up at the time, it was a good decision. I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but it was a good decision at the time.
hmm
It went wrong, obviously, when I did come to America.
It went
I
wrong.
moved, yeah, not
What happened?
intentionally. I'm not intentionally wrong, and it's not a thing for the podcast, but it's a thing I learned by, and I moved on.
Oh, okay. But you're in America now.
Yeah,
So it's what you wanted, right?
yeah,
And you did
and it's
what you did what needed to be done, which was move out of England to
mm,
America. So you were willing to do the paperwork. You were willing to buy the plane ticket. You were willing to give up your place. You're willing to leave your home country to get what you wanted. So you did what it took. But instead of saying, "Oh, I want to move to America one day, but I'm never going to do that because I'm afraid of leaving Cornwall," then give it up, right? If
mm,
you're not going to.
yeah.
But you followed through, so that's amazing.
And like I said, it did go wrong, but that's no fault of
Mm,
anything particular. It was just happened, and
mm,
I wish I was aware of things, and I wish I didn't make that choice at the time. So I regret
mm.
that choice.
Oh, so
But
you
like I said,
you want to be back in Cornwall now?
no, I don't want
Oh.
to be back in Cornwall. But the fact is, just life choices.
Oh, I get it. But still, you don't want to be in Cornwall. Let's talk about just the move.
Mm.
So, would you rather be in Cornwall or America?
America, where I am physically now.
Right. So, all good. Some stuff wasn't perfect, but in the end, for the move was a success.
Yeah.
There you have it.
So, and I very rarely look at Cornwall. Yes, I got friends on social media from Cornwall. I got links that I do follow
hmm
still in Cornwall, but I don't wish to say I want to go back to there because then I'll be back in that same loop of what am
Right.
I going to do? What am I going to do?
Right. Right. So it worked. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mm.
So to conclude our interview, and because I think we covered most of those topics,
hmm
you would like to help people, but obviously helping people is about making them knowing themselves. What would you say to them if they were to say, I want your advice? Or if there any way they can get hold of you and they can get in contact with you and you can help them, if they got hold of you.
Oh, okay. So I don't just like get on calls with anybody because there is a time constraint with the business and my life. But if somebody is interested in being a coach or a consultant or is already a coach or consultant and wants to get more clients online, then they can certainly book a sales call with me. But I'm not like a general advice
No,
giver. Yeah,
I'm not
I like
meaning
it's
that.
just not. Yeah, but as far as like if they want to be a coach or a consultant or are already and they want to book a call, certainly I'll get on a call and we'll see if if we're a fit and we can help them.
And obviously, I will provide all your information in the description post edit.
Right.
But anything you would like to say to people now before we say thank you for the podcast?
Absolutely. I feel that, people need to understand that they are whole and they're worthy and ready right now. People feel like they're so broken and there's something wrong with them all the time. And certainly we all go through stuff where we feel broken because something actually happened. But this thing of like, imposter syndrome, which is really not a real syndrome, because how could we be an imposter of our own selves? Think about that. So the whole imposter syndrome misnomer, I call it, doesn't even exist. And everybody is always subscribing to stuff and actually don't exist. There's no such thing as imposter syndrome. There is no such thing as a person trying to impersonate themselves. And if they actually are trying to impersonate somebody else, then that would be imposter syndrome. If they're actually trying to be, Beyonce. But the point is, my whole message is that you are worthy and ready right now. It's not when I will do that when I'm ... right? Or I will do that when I'm famous, or I'm going to do that when I'm this. Do it now. Just do it. You are never going to be more worthy than right this moment. And if not now, when? That's a really loaded question. That's a black hole of whenness. Is it next week, 3 years, 1 year, 10 years, when I'm about to retire? Generally, well, my whole philosophy is the remedy for everything is taking one step. That is the remedy for every single thing in life, is taking one step.
And that's a great way of ending our podcast today. Thank you for being part of it. And I hope business people will reach out to you and ask for advice with anything they do want to ask.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me on your show, David.
Thank you.